What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I've been inspired to make an Overwatch League Season 2 prediction video after reading an article on the Overwatch League website where all of the experts made their predictions for a variety of different categories. I really like the format they used in this article, so I'm going to be using the same one for this video, which means I'll be predicting the winners of the Atlantic and Pacific divisions, the Final Four in the playoffs, the 2019 Grand Finals champions, the MVP award, Rookie of the Year, and this year's breakout team. With explanations out of the way, let's kick things off by going over my winners of each division. Starting out with the Pacific Division, I have the Los Angeles Gladiators coming out on top. I do, however, think that this division will be very tightly contested, and it's up for grabs for a lot of different teams. If my prediction comes true, I see the Gladiators just barely being the number one team in this division. Teams like the Seoul Dynasty, Hongju Spark, and even the Vancouver Titans will most likely finish close behind them when it's all said and done. The reason I'm going with the Gladiators over everyone else is because their team has the potential to be strong in just about any meta. Whether it's a tank and support heavy one, or more of a DPS centric meta, the Gladiators should be able to play well against most of their competition. The team has kept the same core that worked for them in the previous year, with the exception of Fissure, which hurts them a little bit, but not quite as much as people think. In return for losing Fissure though, the Gladiators signed Roar, who's looking like a very capable main tank player based off of what we've seen from him in Contenders and in his first game in the league, and they also signed his teammate Decay, who has the potential to be one of the best DPS players in the league if you ask me. Receiving two potential Rookie of the Year players seems like a good trade-off if you ask me. I'm expecting big things from this team this year. My winner of the Atlantic Division is the NYXL, and I don't see this race being all too close kind of like with last year, and the reason for that is because the Atlantic just doesn't have as many strong teams as the Pacific does. Sure, London and the Philly Fusion are good and could potentially make things difficult for them, but other than that, none of these other teams look like huge threats for the NYXL, and they probably won't have trouble beating many of them. The Spitfire and the Fusion had their inconsistencies last year, where they played down to their competition, but the NYXL never really had that issue. After all, they only lost 6 games in Season 1. This team looks even scarier when you consider the fact that they added more solid players to a roster full of superstars as it is. Flower and Nene's services will only make this team stronger, I guarantee you that. The teams that I think make it into the Final Four of the overall playoffs are the LA Gladiators, NYXL, Philadelphia Fusion, and London Spitfire. I don't think I need to talk about New York or LA just because I've already explained why I think they're really strong teams, but I see the Fusion making it this far because they already have the experience needed to know how to make a deep playoff run. Also, I think the entire roster steps up their game and plays even better than last year, which includes Carpe. The Spitfire are mostly here because they were the champs last year, but also, everyone knows that this team is a completely different beast in the playoffs, so I have no doubt that they can make it all the way to the Grand Finals once again if they end up qualifying for the overall playoffs. My Grand Finals champs also happen to be the NYXL. I know these guys are labeled as chokers, but I think things play out a little differently this year. Call it a gut feeling if you will, but I think this team learns from its mistakes and uses their new players to help put them over the top. My MVP of the 2019 Overwatch League season is Carpe. Jonek was amazing last year and he definitely deserved to win the award, but I personally think Carpe deserved it a little bit more. Sure, Jonek put in work every single game he played in, but it's not like he had to hard carry his team to victory every single game or anything like that. It just wasn't necessary. Sabiobi dominated on Tracer, especially during stages 2 and 3. Libero was absolutely insane during stage 2, where he did end up winning stage 2 MVP if you forgot. Meko and Mana were both very dominant on the tank line, and we cannot forget about the crazy plays Pine made as well. Carpe had to hard carry his team time after time throughout the entire year in Season 1. I think people forget that the Fusion just barely snuck into the playoffs. There were games where the rest of his team would not play all too well, and yet they'd still end up winning some of those games because of Carpe. The Fusion would be an average team at best without him for sure. I think Carpe elevates his game even further this year, and this time he gets the recognition he deserves by winning the MVP. As for Rookie of the Year, this was probably the hardest thing for me to predict. There's just so many talented first-year players to choose from. I could go with Bumper or Haxel from the Vancouver Titans, or perhaps I could go with Flower. Defran's yet another possibility of a player I could select. But after careful consideration, I have decided to go with Roar. If the Gladiators end up performing as well as I think they will, then people are going to realize that the Gladiators don't need Fissure to succeed, because Roar is doing a fine job of being his replacement. I believe that Roar is going to be making a lot of the same hard carry plays that Fissure did for the team last year, while being a key leader and shot caller that the team needs. I wouldn't be surprised if someone else won this award though, since there are just so many rookie players who are expected to dominate the competition. And finally, I predict that the Shanghai Dragons will be the breakout team of 2019. I see the Dragons going from an 0-40 laughingstock to a playoff contender. The team decided to go with a nearly complete Korean roster, unlike last year where they had a mix of Chinese and Korean players in their lineups, which caused all sorts of communication issues for them. They also managed to upgrade every single position by acquiring Gamsu from the Boston Uprising, as well as 4 members of the former Kangdu Panthera roster. And let's not forget about the addition of Diem, who is looking to be an absolute threat at DPS. The coaching staff even received some upgrades as well. This is a team that will be much improved. They're no longer a team that can be taken lightly, and if you don't take them seriously, then they will beat you. And that pretty much wraps everything up here. That is what my predictions are looking like for the 2019 Overwatch League season. Make sure to let me know what you think of them down in the comments section, and feel free to let me know your own predictions as well. If you enjoyed this content, then be sure to hit that like button, and consider subscribing to the channel if you're new so you can stay up to date with all of my Overwatch League discussions. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, this is ATP, signing out. Peace.